Well, hey everybody, we are on episode 18 of season 2 of Chihayafuru, aka episode 43, and we are in the midst of our battle for the finals against Fujisaki, and I've really enjoyed this matchup so far. Last week we got a really good kind of moment where Chihaya, well, it's not good for Chihaya, she has injured herself and she's not telling anybody, but all of our boys that are playing with her recognize that something's up and that Chihaya is working through it, and they smacked their faces and resolved to work along with it as well. And it was just a really exciting setup episode. We saw Rion show emotion. Makoto still hung up on her. It was a great moment. And we got to see with the coach just how amazing that they are. So I actually have quite a few comments I want to dive into before we even start this episode. So we're going to start, of course, with Fornoda, who has a translation for episode 14, the poem being in love. This is a repeat from season 1, episode 9, and there's little to add to as a whole, but as a refresher, poem 40 was written by Taira no Kanamori, one of the 36 immortals. According to Mosto, it was included in a poetry contest in 960, and in the finals, faced off against poem 41. The judges were not able to pick a winner, so they deferred to Emperor Murakami. After deliberation, the emperor hummed the verses from Taira's poem, making it the winner. Mosto translates it as, "Even though I hide it, it shows all over my face. Such is my longing, so that people ask me, what are you thinking about?" Whereas Macmillan has a slightly different translation. "Though I try to keep it secret, my deep love shows in the blush on my face. Others keep asking me, who are you thinking of?" Though, reasonably, both translations are still relatively similar in the end. Our original commentator was not present for this one, so I had my own thoughts this time around. Being very obviously a love poem, and a somewhat bittersweet one at that, Taichi as a target for it comes to mind. But I think it can also reasonably be chosen with Kana in mind, who has a soft spot for poems, especially love poems, and who almost always tried to overextend into the finale, but let her love for Karuta and her love for the team win out in the end and choose the bittersweet option of sitting out the final match. I like that determination. I like that translation with it too. I like that we instantly, when we see bittersweet love, we're like, oh, Taichi, right? Anyway, speaking of Kana, HBanana7 for episode 15 says, Kana fangirling over the reader. Talk about having a super niche fetish. I'm so glad that she met Karuta. Where else could she combine her love of Japanese poetry and traditions? I love that Kana has come into her own in this series, and just her getting to experience things like this. It's really nice to see. So, next we have Grace. Gracie Contadoy. Y'all know who you are. For episode 15 says, it's a funny miscommunication. It's funny that miscommunication gets you the most frustrated. While for me, I get super frustrated with Arata's character writing because it's too broad stroked and not well defined enough. Like he's a MacGuffin to move the story forward rather than a well fleshed out character. I need more of Arata's inner thoughts and feelings, more of his struggles in the story. Give us more Arata, author. Miscommunication is my least favorite trope. If you've been on my channel for very long, you know that. As an English and communications major, I'm just like, no, talk it out, write it out, do what you need to do, but this is stupid. Don't do miscommunication, especially when it's oftentimes in stories easy to avoid. So I just don't. Now, if a miscommunication is done well in a story, then I'm like, okay, no, it makes sense why it happened. But like episode 15 was a bit trying. But I do agree that I don't think Arata is a MacGuffin, because a MacGuffin is just to advance the plot, and Arata's not really done that. He's kind of off to the side. So I wouldn't call him a MacGuffin. I would say if he was a MacGuffin, he would be leading Chihaya's team forward in action, and that's not really happening. He's out to the sideline. He's been pushed aside right now. I do agree that at this point, with us being 18 episodes into the second season, and from what I do understand, there's enough manga to create a fourth season, and then you should be about done. We're about halfway through the series, and Arata is still so mysterious. But I will say this, we got a lot about his backstory in season 1. So he's not too mysterious. We just don't get a lot of his inner thoughts like we do with the other characters and even the antagonists from the other teams that are so well defined, and maybe that's why it seems that way. I don't know. I don't have a problem with Arata's character development. I just want to see more of him interacting with Chihaya and Taichi. That's what I'm getting onto the author about. I'm like, we're almost halfway through the story, and they've only interacted like twice together, except in flashbacks. And I'm like, but that's the point of the story, right? That's a big driving force. S Anime says for episode 15, someone said it on YouTube, and I agree with them, that Taichi does not strike me as a person who is deliberately stoic or trying to play the white knight. He is a reactive person, so he just responds to what is happening around him. I think in season 1 he was a lot more deliberate with his lack of action or taking action. For example, eating from the spoon or wanting to hold Chihaya's hand but not doing it. But I think his actions this season are more spontaneous and impetuous since his insecurities have grown. I definitely agree with that last statement. I think he has, because of his insecurities, gotten a little bit more like hesitant or just doing things without thinking about it. I definitely agree with that. I think what I'm trying to say is that he's giving off this too cool for school persona because of those insecurities. It's not necessarily that he is, but he's giving off that vibe because of his insecurities. And my fear is that Chihaya would, I know she can see through it, but if I were in that scenario, I'd be like, is this really how you are? Why aren't you being yourself? And that's kind of what I wish Taichi would do more of. And maybe this match will push him to do that. Who knows? We'll see. And then finally, Alexandra Q says, on the subject of Kana jamming her finger, something that stuck out to me was, quote, we have the first years. When talking about it having been good, that it was her who got hurt in the sense they can sub them and continue playing. And it struck me because if it wasn't for Chihaya, they wouldn't have had those first years to play, and they would have been too inexperienced to be any help. It would have sucked so much to come all that way there to the finals and to have a handicap because they're lacking one player. The previous year, it wasn't so bad because Chihaya got sick pretty early in the tournament and it still hurt, but now it would have been crushing. I just really think that it's thanks to Chihaya's persistence that they have this opportunity, and I wish someone would acknowledge it to her as well. I hope so too. Maybe by the end of this tournament they'll acknowledge that, or by the end of the season. But yeah, if Chihaya that's why I was bitching at the early part of the series for this season, because everybody was like, oh, it's fine that Nishida and them don't want them to practice. That's just totally reasonable. And I'm like, no, if Chihaya's thinking long game, girl is thinking ahead. And I don't know if people thought I was just being too dramatic, but now we see that, yeah, if Chihaya hadn't done what she did, they would have been screwed. So how about that, right? Speaking of which, Chihaya saying it's a lot harder to want to become the best in Japan rather than alone is something I want her to say to Shinobu. Of course, becoming the queen is an amazing accomplishment and speaks to the strengths of the individual, but I have to agree with Chihaya that trying to raise the abilities of a whole team so they can together become the best requires a completely different set of skills and dedication. It reminds me of Haikyuu too, and how this one school, which you'll go read the comment on Patreon, you'll see it, says that the best team isn't the team with the strong players, but the team that can multiply that strength and individual strengths by the strengths of the 6 players on the team. So yeah, as a coach for an activity that's kind of like Karuta, where you can excel individually, but also as a team, that is 100% true. And it rotates year to year, but there's some years where you have some really, really strong individual people, and your goal is to help take their individual strengths to pull the team together. And then you have other years where your team is maybe not individually strong, but as a group kind of can come together and like motivate each other and strengthen each other and work that way. So it's a really cool commentary to make, and I really like that. And I also, having read that, I was like, yeah, Shinobu kind of needs to see that. Shinobu thinks that being the team matches are easy and the team matches aren't challenging. And I think that that's a really good point about Shinobu not realizing just how tough the team challenge is. And again, Dr. Harada's words, the team matches are individual matches and the individual matches are for the team matches. So I wish Shinobu would just like either run into Dr. Harada and he could tell her that or she could learn that by watching. So I guess we'll see. She's stuck up front, so she doesn't have a choice now. So I guess we'll see if she ends up, hearing out any of this commentary herself. But thank you all so much for the comments. I really appreciate it. I've talked for almost 10 minutes, so I'm not going to waste any of y'all's time anymore, but I'm so excited to dive into this episode, and I really appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you, Fornoda, for the translation, and let's not waste any more time, y'all. All right, we are going to start Chihayafuru, episode 18 of season 2, and we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do it to it. Oh yeah, this was a really good episode. Yes. Oh man. I was like, okay, we're getting down to the wire. The crazy thing is, I don't know. Here's the thing. Now that we're getting into Chihaya's injury, I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to deal with. Because Chihaya kind of points it out. We're going to talk about her thinking if she's going to compete in the individual tournaments or not. When we had this final match set up, I was like, okay, this season is 24 episodes long, and we're already on episode 18. And I think it's going to go at least to episode 19, which is next week. And then you have 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. You have 5 episodes left after that. So even if the match went to episode 20, that's still, even if it went that far, it would give you 4 episodes for the individual matches, which doesn't seem like a lot of time. But here's the thing. I don't think Chihaya is going to play in the individual matchups because the irony of this series is insane. Arata's going to get to play in the individual matches, but Chihaya will not. That is wild. Which means that Arata might have to make up for Chihaya and fight even harder since she can't play, to fight even harder for her. And Shinobu seems like she's unlocked some kind of like hidden demon within her, so she may be on a rampage tomorrow, which might be interesting. If Taichi and Arata and Shinobu are all facing each other, that might be interesting. But I think that if Chihaya doesn't play in the individual matches, then the rest of this season being only 3 or 4 episodes makes a lot more sense. So that sucks. I don't know what Chihaya has done. It sounds like she's got tendonitis or something in her hand, or she's, if you've done that, if you've overexerted, it's not a jammed finger, but if you've overexerted that hand, you might have twisted a muscle, you might have sprained something. It sounds like she sprained her wrist, which it sounds like doing that sprained her wrist maybe. And if that's the case, that's going to take a little while to heal up. So what is the deal? This mangaka is really cruel. This mangaka is like, well, if she's not fainting, we're going to have her sprain her wrist. And then that'll keep her from being OP and making it further in the competition so that we can have more seasons. Son of a bitch. Anyway, this episode had nearly a 3-minute recap. So that made this episode go by really quickly, like super quick. And I was like, okay. So the episode is called My Fear Is That You Will Forget. And I'm sure that Fornoda will give us the translation when we get to it. But my whole thought concerning this episode was very much, we kind of touch upon it with Taichi, the idea that he's like, I need to forget. I need to be okay with forgetting. I think that he's not so much worried about his own memory and forgetting, because he says he's a bad person at forgetting, which comes out in multiple ways. We'll talk about it in this. But I think a lot of Taichi's fear is that he's going to be forgotten, right? That he will be forgotten along the way. And that's kind of an interesting callback, because back in season 1, when he joined back up and met Chihaya, there almost seemed to be a, did he care if she remembered him or not? And of course she remembered him. And so it kind of tapped into that notion there. And then the idea of him trying to forget. Here's the thing. What he acknowledges in this episode about him being very bad at forgetting makes me be like, oh, so that whole time in middle school where you weren't with Chihaya and Arata, you were actually miserable. Oh, because you could remember all the fun times that they had and you were convincing yourself that you didn't need it. Oh, okay, yeah. Just, how dare you throw that angst upon us, Taichi? How dare you do that to us? That's horrible. That's so sad. Like, I really felt for Taichi in this episode. I'm rooting for him, and I'm so glad. This is the first episode in a long time in this series where I was like actively like, yes, Taichi, all of these things, Taichi. Yes, finally, let's go, Taichi. Like, this was the first episode I felt really good about his character in a long time watching, and so let's not lose that momentum. But yeah, so we dive into this episode, we find out that Nishida was down 3 cards. Nishida's down 3 cards. Scuba and Destomu being down 7 cards. That makes sense. Chihaya's been on a roll, so she's been picking up the pace. So there's a chance, I don't know if she's going to win or not. I don't know with Chihaya if she's going to win or not. They're really making it go back and forth. So here's the thing. You have, I thought the moment that Scuba lost and he had that flash in his mind of Kana saying, you have to win for me. He lost. And Rion told Makoto that she would win for the team. So I feel like it could go either one of 2 ways. Either Chihaya's going to lose and they can just blame it on the injury. And she knows that. She knows she's injured, but she doesn't want to give up yet. Or she could win and Rion could go back to Makoto and be like, oh, I'm sorry I lost. And Makoto could like ruffle her hair and be like, it's all right. I'm not that mad. Or like something like that. So I don't know how they're going to play it. They're really... You would think, I thought they were going to come into this match and just lose and just be steamrolled. And they've put up such a good fight. I was not expecting it from any of them in this matchup. I really wasn't. I didn't think Tsutomu and Scuba were going to win their matches. I didn't think that was a possibility. But I do think Nishida can win. I think it would be good for Nishida to win. I really think it would be... Taichi needs to win. Taichi needs to win his match. He's only down 5 cards. And I love that they're like, he has such bad luck, which he does. Bless his heart. But I feel like this game has taught Taichi some really important things that he needed to know about himself that we're going to talk about in this discussion. But I'm hoping Taichi can win because he really needs to, so that he can like have some confidence going into the individual matches. And if Chihaya can't play in the individual matches, that'll give him some confidence he can carry with him. Maybe face Arata. That would be wild. That would be crazy, but I don't know if it's going to happen or not. So we'll see. And then everyone's losing, but they're refusing to give up. And the coach, Suzuzawa, she's like, now's the time to learn that there are times when spirit alone isn't enough to cut it. Yeah, and I think that was definitely in Scuba and Destomu's cases. I mean, both of them are facing Class A ranked players. They're both, I mean, it wasn't just the spirit you had to have, it was the talent and the experience to back it up, and they just don't have it yet. Whereas Nishida is Class A, Chihaya is Class A against a Class B, and Taichi should be Class A, so, you know, we'll see. So the team goes on, and Taichi realizing he's not as good as Arata. My only thing is I wish he would have realized it like 2 episodes ago. And I really think that this matchup against old boob grabber, I think that this matchup is a good learning moment for Taichi, for him to be like, oh yeah, he's not as good as Arata. I should not compare him to Arata, and I can beat him. And also, I want Taichi to realize that he can beat Arata. He doesn't think that he can, but he really could. If Taichi would focus and buckle down and get to be as, like, if he would just let go of his insecurities, which easier said than done, I know, but if he did, he would be as good as Arata, and I think he could even beat Arata, honestly. I think Taichi could. I really think he could. I think Arata, one of the big bonuses that Arata has going for him is that he's not scared. Arata isn't afraid. He goes in, does the best he can, and he's like, okay. Arata is type B, and he's just like, I'll just go in and do what I know how to do, and hopefully I win. Taichi's type A, and he's just like, well, I have to know the cards. I have to have them memorized. I have to forget from the last match. And so it's a whole different way of walking into it. But yeah, I wish that Arata was like, what are you doing? He's like, Arata is definitely better than he is. The fact that Taichi's like, this guy can't compare. What are you talking about? And then he realizes, Arata, I'm happy when I forget you, but I feel encouraged when I remember you. You guys don't need to be doing that to my BL shipping senses. That's some BL shit right there. I was like, what? Shut up. Shut up with your angst. No. But yeah, I kind of love that Taichi he's starting to turn over this leaf of, because Chihaya always feels encouraged when she thinks of Arata. She feels encouraged. He inspires her. He gives her hope and gives her courage to play Karuta the best that she can. And Taichi is getting that first access into that emotional like component. Whereas before he was just jealous of Arata. And so every time he thought of him, he just sensed his own inadequacies. And then and just when you're like, okay, Taichi, he's like, oh, I'm no good. I'm a bad forgetter. I'm like, stop, my dude. Just stop. And he's like, Coach Sakurazawa's F-cup boobs. Leave her boobs alone, sir. She is your coach. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? But yeah, I'm like, come on, Taichi. You got this. You can do this. And that's when he remembers that Dr. Harada used to like give him a 5-card handicap. I love this little flashback. It was so cute. Where he's like, we used to start with a 5-card handicap and I'd have to catch up. I'm like, see? Just 1 card at a time, right? 1 card at a time. You got this. You can do this, Taichi. Come on now. So he's like, I'll spot you. There are some really good moments in this, but unlike other teams, Fujisaki is the 4-time champs running. So they are not easily discouraged when things start to go downhill. That's something that's also cool about them as opponents. They are not easily like, if it was Retro-kun's team or if it was the Arashi girls or whatever, or Kashi girls, they would be like, oh no, they're all getting cards. Fujisaki's not really phased. They're just like, okay, we're still up. We're up. And they're up 2 wins. So they are in a really good position right now to win the championship. They just need 1 more win and then it's over. But I love that Taichi's like, I want to overcome being scared of Arata and not feeling adequate as a player. And I'm like, yes, you need to get over that, Taichi, because you're so much better than that. And I love Tsutomu. I love Tsutomu being like, I want to overcome my own analysis. I want to like look at something told to me and be like, no, I'm going to overcome it. I'm like, that's so good. I also like how he realizes at the end that the blowing of the bangs is not a nervous tick from Makoto. It's when they get serious. And I was like, oh, that's something you probably should have realized before. Meanwhile, Nishida is like, I got this. I've got to do this. I want Nishida and Taichi to win their matches because they really need to. Nishida has lost the last 2 matches that they've been in, and they need to get that together if they're going to do anything tomorrow in the individual matches. They need to get better with that. Taichi needs to do the exact same. I think that they're going to win their 2 matches. Nishida and Taichi will. I think it's going to come down to Chihaya. It would be awesome if they beat Fujisaki. I don't think they're going to. I think that Chihaya is going to lose her match, but I could be wrong. Or Taichi could lose his match. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. I really don't. But they talk about different cards and how those cards are one that they've all remembered. This one guy, the Zodiac series is magnificent. This guy was weird. I agree with Scuba. His anime moves that he was doing, it was like Gurren Lagann or something. But I do like how he tapped Scuba on the back at the end. And he's like, hey, you did really good. Because honestly, an A-ranked player playing against Scuba, who's like not even D rank, and only losing by 7 or 8 cards, that's not bad. I would take that as a compliment. He's like, you made me go into 2nd gear. What is this, One Piece? I think that Scuba, what he should have done was be creepy right back. Like back when the series started, season 2 started, he was like doing the thing with his tongue and they were like, ooh, quit doing that. I'm like, no, when you face your opponents, do it. Weird them out. Make them go, what? I really think he should have embraced it. But Scuba's like, he's weird and he's not taking me seriously. He's like, I can't become a hero like this. See? Scuba, you're wanting to be a hero and everything. You've got some of that cray-cray in you too. You just need to tap into that. Tap into that and make that work in the future to your advantage. I do like that he remembered some of what Kana said about the sorrow cards. And then when she started to get real descriptive about them, then he started to zone out. That was really funny. Usually a flashback, you hear the whole thing, but this, he kind of started to zone out what she was saying. which is really cute. He's like, I don't know about all these different cards, but whatever. He's like, it did help me tell the difference. He's like, when I see a card I've practiced constantly, I get a confidence boost. So the answer to that is just practice a lot of cards constantly, and you'll get lots of confidence boosts when you see them on the mat. I also love that both Sakurazawa and Shinobu are both upset about this whole... I mean, Shinobu's not mad because Fujisaki's losing in that moment, but she's just mad she has to be there. But the coach is mad too. There's also a lot of women in this episode that are featured, which I love. So yeah, Chihaya is doing it great. And then the coach talks about how lacking experience playing under pressure and talking about Rion. I mean, she stuck Rion in there to give her this experience, right? Because she knows Rion's going to have to be the ace next year. So if she loses this match, that's something for her to build off of. And if she wins, that's something to build off of as well. You can either build off that confidence or you can take the loss and go, okay, we've got work to do. I mean, she was being very strategic. She also thought that she'd have a hometown advantage because of her grandma reading. And the grandma, we'll talk about her, she thought so too. Oh my God, this game. But yeah, so the coach is like, it's not often you get to play with an opponent who has such amazing game sense. And she's like, come on, Yama, give me the best you got. I freaking admire Chihaya so much. Chihaya is injured. She knows she's injured. She's trying to ignore the pain, but a sprain hurts and she's trying to ignore it. But she's not asking Yama to go easy on her. She's not like, maybe Yama will feel guilty and I'll get a buy-in. She's like, give me the best you got. I want to play you at your best. I'm like, our girl, like, respect to Chihaya, y'all. Respect to her. Like, she wants to play a good game. And she's still, like, that moment, her face, that is a face fighting through pain. She is, like, fighting through it to win. Girl, I admire that. And then Makoto's like, come on. Makoto is really adorable here. I love Makoto explaining that they're like, I would not participate in any sports that would get me dirty. No to outdoors, no to getting sweaty. I love that they're just sitting there with their fan, like just doing that. And then, come on. The moment that you saw Rion before she cut her hair, the moment you saw her, you thought she was beautiful. Sir, I mean, come on. You could not be more obvious. And he's like, if you can't win in such favorable circumstances, you're going to get picked on again. And I love that he says, by me. He's like, I want you to be the best. And if you can't win in this, then I'm going to keep getting on to you. What a tsundere. What an absolute tsundere. I love it. I like Makoto. I hope he asks her out before he graduates. So yeah, so Tsutomu loses the game. And they're like, focus Rion. I love that they specifically address Rion and the other team players are like, is he admitting? Are we confessing on the Karuta tatami mat? But yeah. So Tsutomu has learned that they needed to improve. They needed to improve their data and act upon it better. And then Rion puts the hair back behind the ear. Like, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to listen to this moment. I'm still, y'all, when everybody was like, no, they couldn't help but have the grandma be the reader in this match. I'm like, yes, they could. The grandma just says it. She says, I was worried it would be unfair for me to participate as a reader. This old woman knew exactly what she was doing. She thought it was unfair, and she still did it anyway. I'm like, if I had a shred of integrity to my soul and I saw that my relative was being in the round, I would have been like, hey, I can't read this. Is there somebody else we can have back up the round? Because there's no way of thinking. Here's the thing. You know when these matches happen. These matches last so long. If you know she had to get there early enough to get ready and geared up and get her voice ready for the reading. If you saw your granddaughter was in the semifinal, you could have gone up to the desk to where this place. Again, I have helped to organize these events. Not Karuta specifically, but an event that is structured just like Karuta. you could have gone up to the tab room or the table where they're organizing and been like, hey, my granddaughter's in the semifinal. If she's in the final, I can't read for this. And surely if they were an organization that was well organized and it's the final of nationals, so I'm assuming that it's not just like a podunk tournament in the middle of nowhere, it's the national competition. They've got things organized. Surely they have a backup reader. What if she'd gotten sick? What if she had a migraine? What if her voice went out? They have to have a backup reader, I'm sure. She could have gone to them and said, hey, my granddaughter's in the semifinal. I don't feel comfortable reading. Do you have a backup reader? And then they could have gone and gotten. They could have gone and got them. If you're at a national championship Karuta match and you don't have a backup reader, where is our professionalism? So yeah, I'm just like, come on. They could even swap. They could have swapped. They could have swapped. It makes me so mad because yeah, the grandma here, there's another reader reading at the same time for the consolation match of the other two teams. She could have swapped with them. She could have saw her daughter in the final and went, hey, that's my granddaughter. I can't read this. I'm going to swap with you. I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling so much bullshit. She could have swapped with Retro-kun and them's reader and read for their match, and then that reader could have read for that. It was doable. It was so doable. There are two readers reading at the same time. Just switch them. Just switch them. And then you can't have the fact that the coach was cheating using the advantage of knowing who the reader was. Then swap it out. Your advantage is immediately gone. You're like, oh, I thought this was the person who's reading. Well, no, her granddaughter's on the team. We can't do that. It's a conflict of interest. Oh, the hometown advantage is gone. I just solved the puzzle. I just solved everything. I'm not even involved in Karuta, and I just solved your problem. Then you would have had no hometown advantage. Problem solved, instantly over. There was already another reader doing the Retro-kun and their match. Just swap with them. Wow. Problems are solved. Worlds are saved. I just solved everything. The fact that she was okay with it. And she's like, well, but it's okay because Chihaya is good competition. So if she wasn't good competition, it totally would have been even worse cheating. And she says Chihaya is a lot like Suo. Now, speaking of cheating, this is interesting. He's like, would you please allow me to record your reading? They allow you to do that? They allow you to do that? Is that not cheating? Because essentially, I mean, I guess it's not, because if you go to a bunch of matches, you're probably eventually going to hear her. Or if you watch matches on TV, you're going to eventually hear her too. But she was like, to ask to record just feels like, that feels kind of sus, because it's like he knows that she's a reader that's going to be reading at national championships. So it's like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me in livestock judging, which is the weirdest thing to compare it to. But my family showed livestock when I was a kid. And in livestock judging, there are only a certain number of judges. It just is how it is. Some livestock breeds and species, even you have to be certified to judge. So if you know that judge and what they like, you can kind of pick an animal to show that is going to be to their liking. So I guess recording her read is a strategy. It's a really good strategy. I'm surprised more people aren't doing it. But then again, not everybody has the game sense that Suo does. Suo needs to be teaching this technique to Chihaya. Tell her to go record people if that would help her. I really want Suo and Chihaya to meet, but I don't know if that will ever happen in this series. But I really want them to meet. But yeah, so anyway, we go back to the deer card. I do always remember the deer card because it's that little that imagery of the deer pops up in my head. And Chihaya recognizes, thanks to Kana and thanks to Kana using her explanation of the poems, it helps Chihaya to imagine the differences and to know the difference between the two of them, which is really nice. So yeah. And then she ends up getting it and Shinobu's impressed. But as she goes back, she starts to realize how much she's in pain. And I think Shinobu catches on. She knows that Chihaya is injured. And this point here, Shinobu and Chihaya see each other, and then she realizes where she's at and everyone watching. And she's like, why? Why do I think that it was Arata that brought Shinobu here? Because it was. Because you're telepathic. Because you have psychic abilities. I guess she probably thought that, because why else would Shinobu be there? Why would she be there watching, right? Especially because Arata had told her he wasn't coming to watch, but I'm focused on winning the individual tournament. I love, she's like, I might not get to play Arata or Shinobu if I can't do the individual tournaments. I am glad that Chihaya at least understands that she is injured and she may not get to play. I'm glad she at least understands that. That's really, really helpful, because a lot of times players are like, I can work through it. I can keep playing. I'm glad that she recognizes, she's like, no, after today, I'm probably done for a while. I'm like, good. At least you recognize that you have an injury, and that's, you know, you can't mess around with that. So I'm glad she at least realizes it, but I feel bad for her because she's like, if I can't play tomorrow, then we're just going to make the most of the day. And then after today, we'll see what happens. And when she taps everybody on the shoulder, that was so good. And Shinobu watching her being like, oh, what is this? She says, we all feel the same way. We're all only focused on winning. So we come back to Arata. We get a random Arata ab shot. and then I appreciate that Arata does not go and watch the game. To me, it feels like it would be jinxing it if he looked in. It really does. So I'm glad he stays on the outside to watch. I also like in the shot, the shoes. I forgot to put up screenshots for this discussion, so apologies. But in the shoes that you can see by where he's sitting, when he's got his like hands like this, they're all rainbow. It's like red, yellow, green, blue, purple, black. They're all neatly arranged in a rainbow. For Arata, of course. And I like that he's like, who will it be? Also, Whiteboard Kun makes an appearance. Look at Whiteboard Kun showing up. But yeah, I like that he didn't look in. Also, his voice sounds deeper in this episode set, which is just Pikasoya. Love it. And so Shinobu starts to wonder about all of these players. I like that when Shinobu is wondering about the people playing and why they're doing team matches, she only focuses on the women, because who she's looking at are her rivals for Queen, which is interesting. We're going to talk about it. So the game between Retro Kun's team and the others are pretty even head to head, right? Which is crazy. Like, they all look like they're within 3 cards, which I hope that Retro Kun's team wins. Pseudo hopes that Retro Kun's team wins. Pseudo is just like, I like the guy describes Pseudo as a snake, because he's just sitting there with holding the banner like, you better not lose. I just love it. So yeah, then Shinobu, we have this flashback with Shinobu, okay? So Shinobu plays against, she's like, oh, I won another close game. Shinobu, that makes us rivals. And they're like, and Shinobu looks so happy there. And they're like, we need you to play against Ryusei-kun next. She's such a cute little kid, Shinobu is. And they made her play against these other guys instead. And the girl gets left behind. Like, we need to keep Shinobu away from children her age. She'll learn to go easy on her opponents. The more she's alone, the stronger she'll become. So. We need to talk about this. Not since the days of Kuroko's basketball have I looked at the adults in a sports anime and went, the fudge you say what? Because Harata, here's the thing. Whoever these coaches are that have been training her, which I'm assuming are the ones from her Karuta Society, Harata's like, you know, Suo and Shinobu, these master and queens that are just, you know, loners, they're going to really not advance the Karuta Society in the game itself. So why are they like this? Why have they been such loners? Why aren't they interested in team matches? Why could it be? Are they just brats, or is it just their personality? Y'all created these monsters yourselves. What? So yeah, no, Shinobu liked playing with other people her age, but y'all made her be isolated and then got her conditioned to it, and then she didn't want to play any team matches because she was literally brainwashed into thinking it was bad. And we wonder why things are like it the way they are. Oh my God. She's like, why am I remembering this now? Like, Shinobu was made into this robot for Karuta, and Suo might have been the same. I don't think Suo was the same way, but I'm curious to see. The one thing about Suo that I'm going to note is I questioned back when we first met him if he even cared about Karuta. But here's the thing. He clearly does care about Karuta, because he asked Yamashiro to record her voice. So unless he was ordered to go there by his coach, and he's like, can you let me record your voice, please? Because he was told to against his will, then he wanted to do it. So he wants to play Karuta. I'm just curious why. And she's realizing in this moment, seeing all these other women playing, she's seeing Chihaya play and Rion play. And then she's like focusing on the two of them. And then she like looks over and hears the reader. And then she goes over and looks over at Megumu and the others. So while this is going on, he's like, was it Fujisaki? He's like, I'm standing right next to them and it's hard to tell. So the one guy had to determine who got the card because they couldn't decide on who got it themselves. He's like, I want to let them focus. And yeah. And then the Empress is like, you need to move back because Shinobu's just getting too much into it, right? The one brother wishes he would have played instead of Rion. And then the coach is like, shut up. I made my decision. Don't question it. But yeah, Rion had the advantage. And I like the coach was like, I gave you every opportunity to shine. But she's one that she's not good for the long game. And she's like, I've never lost a match that my grandmother had read. I was convinced I could defeat the queen if my grandma was reading. See, that's a mistake. You can't assume that you can cheat your way into winning. That's not going to work. Nope, not going to work at all. And arbitrary things like that. Like, to be fair, I give the situation a hard time because I think it is unfair to have the grandmother read. I think it's all kinds of unethical, and I think it's not professional, and I have a lot of issues with it as an organizer and as a coach and everything else. But from a competitive angle, it is an advantage, but it's not a guarantee. And Rion is discovering that. And I'm like, even if you think you have the advantage, you are not guaranteed to win. That is never the case. She's like, I don't want to lose. And Shinobu sees that. I really love the shot of Arata where he's just got the hands in front of him. And he's like, it's almost like he's praying for Chihaya and Taichi's team to win. He's like praying for them. And then Arata has this monologue where he says, we don't belong to teams, so we can only focus on making ourselves stronger. Here's the thing. Arata is jealous of the teams that they have. He's jealous of it. And what I like about Arata's character is that he's not mad, and he's jealous, but he's not jealous of them in a malicious way. He's just like, it sucks. He's like, we can only focus on making ourselves stronger, but he's like, don't you see it, Shinobu? He's like, we love Karuta. That's why we keep doing this even when we're alone. But our world of Karuta will only grow as long as new players join. And because here's the thing, it's more fun when you're with a team and you build each other up and you encourage each other. And it's just doing it alone is not as fun unless you're so gung-ho into it. But the activity won't maintain itself or be sustainable and stay alive unless you have these teams. He's like, it just isn't possible. And then it cuts to her and she's like, well, it's got nothing to do with me. It doesn't matter to me. And I like that Shinobu's trying to pass off the buck, being like, there's nothing I can do about it. It doesn't matter. She's like, no one will ever take me seriously. And that's interesting that she says that because I'm like, everyone takes you seriously. Everyone playing you thinks you are a serious threat. Maybe she's talking about just like her attitude and her demeanor, that they wouldn't take her seriously on a team. And she's like, nobody. But then she sees all of them being like, please wait. And Rion's jumped up, Chihaya's jumped up, Megumu's jumped up, Yuki's jumped up. And then she sees that Rion would take her seriously. Yuki takes her seriously. Those other girls take her seriously. Megumu and Chihaya do. They're fighting just as hard as she is. They take it just as seriously. So she would be in good company. And she just didn't realize it. And then her seeing that, I feel like she's made an epiphany. And just like that demon smile on her face, I'm like, I don't know what revelation Shinobu has had yet. I'm assuming we're going to find out here soon, but I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared at this revelation that Shinobu has had. I don't know. This demon core is activated within her, so. But yeah. So Taichi's still down by 5 cards, and they're like, he has no luck. He's like, I can see why this guy is his captain. And so Taichi talks about the fact that the captain for Fujisaki, he doesn't over-memorize, which is something I'm too scared to try. Yeah, Taichi is so worried about forgetting that he over-memorizes to make sure he doesn't, but it also can become a hindrance to him, and he's just not ready to take a gamble. And I'm like, oof. He's like, he wasn't just targeting the cards that I lost. And he's like, he's played as many games as me, and he hasn't sweat or made a fault. We're both on our 5th match. Should I focus on defending my side or attacking his side? I like that Taichi is like, okay, let's just stick to my roots and start from there, right? I want Taichi to realize from this match that he can gamble, and it's okay. And I want him to do that in the individual matches. I want Taichi to soar in the individual matches. Our boy needs it. He needs to become a Class A so he can face Arata and the others. Our boy Taichi needs to get out of Class B this season, please, so he can play with everybody else. So then Scuba loses. He said that the other guy was just toying with me, and I think he thinks that because his towel has like that anime girl on it, the shining rainbow, but he just likes anime. He's just an otaku playing Karuta. You know? I do like that Scuba has this moment, because Scuba throughout the season has just been playing for himself and for his brothers. He's been playing to like be the hero and like live up to his brothers. But in this moment, he feels kind of ashamed because he did like make a big deal about wanting to play, and Kana put her faith in him, and he probably feels like he's let her down. I feel for Scuba. I hope that he gets to talk to her after the match. So Fujisaki says 1 more win for the championship, and I love that Taichi says we got 3 left. Everybody's like saying like, oh, Fujisaki's gonna win. Oh, Mizusawa tried their best. These nobodies from out of nowhere, but it's gonna be a 5-peat victory for Fujisaki. And then Taichi's like, 3 wins. He's like, let's do this. We just need 3. He's like, let's go. But I love how determined he is. And Chihaya's like, okay. I want them to do so well. I think that there's a chance. I don't know. I think all 3 of them, Nishida and Taichi and Chihaya, can win their matches. I think they can. I just don't know what it's going to come down to. And I think they have the possibility. I still think Fujisaki's going to win, but maybe not. If Chihaya's not playing in the individuals tournament, maybe they will. Maybe they will win. Who knows? It would be the biggest upset for a 4-time in a row champion Fujisaki to lose to an out-of-nowhere school. It would be an upset. I don't know if our underdogs are really big underdogs, but I don't know. And here's the thing. They're second years. Next year's their 3rd year, but they made it sound like it was going to be easy next year to get to the finals if Fujisaki's not as good. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do about that. But so I don't know if they're going to win or lose and come back and dominate next year. I don't know how that's going to work. So anyway, this episode went by really quickly, and we're at least going to have maybe the conclusion of finals next week. I don't know. Maybe. But I guess we'll see. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. I thought this was a fantastic episode. I'm worried about Chihaya's injury. I think she sprained her wrist. I don't think she's going to be able to do the individual tournaments. So she's going to have to sit on the sidelines, which for Chihaya is... Or maybe she'll go to the doctor while they're doing the individual matches. That would be the smart thing to do, would be go to the doctor while they're doing the individual matches. That would be the wise thing to do. And maybe Arata will call her or something and they can have a conversation on the phone. That'd be amazing. If he would actually tell her what went down and be like, hey, I tried to go watch your matches, but then I got held up. I wish he'd explain that to her. That'd be great. That'd be great to get some communication up in here, but why would we do that? Why would we do that? Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back real soon with episode 19, maybe the finale of the finals of season 2 of Chihayafuru. And I'll see you then. Bye.